There's a real question about whether Missouri's new congressional map is in effect tonight. According to a social media post from the state attorney general, it is, but opponents argue that it should not be. They argue the more than 300,000 signatures turned into the Secretary of State's office Tuesday should have suspended that law. Missouri's Republican Attorney General and Secretary of State are citing a federal court opinion when they say the map will not be frozen unless and until the Secretary of State certifies the referendum. In the past, some laws got paused the moment groups turned in signatures for a citizen veto. Even political experts say this is a vague and confusing part of Missouri law.
And so here the Missouri Constitution makes it kind of clear that the referendum needs to be referred to the people, and it's going to hinge on what is meant by referred. Is it just the signatures are needed, or is it going to actually need to go to the voters itself?
The Secretary of State faces a July deadline to verify if there are enough valid signatures to force a vote.